Section 1. You will hear a conversation between two old friends who meet each other by accident. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. You will see that there is an example. This time only, the conversation relating to this will be played first.
Hello, Frank. How are you?
Well, John. Yeah, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. I haven't seen you since we left school. How long ago is that now? It must be 10 years. Or is it 11?
No, it's 9 years now.
So, 9 years, A, is the correct answer. Now we begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, as a recording is not played twice. Listen carefully to the conversation and answer questions 1 to 5.
Hello, Frank. How are you?
Well, John. Yeah, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. I haven't seen you since we left school. How long ago is that now? It must be 10 years. Or is it 11?
No, it's 9 years now. What are you doing with yourself? You were going to be a doctor, weren't you? Or something medical, like a chiropractor?
Well, I was going to be, but that's not what I did. I started medical school, but I didn't really enjoy it, and the idea of doing it for 5 or 6 years, and then continuing to study for years after that, didn't really appeal. So I left medical school and went into teacher training college to be a science teacher.
And I thought for all these years that you were earning megabucks as a doctor, or working in a pharmaceutical company.
No, just a teacher. I love it though. I'm so glad I did it instead of medicine. And what are you doing, Frank?
After school I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I travelled for a couple of years around the world.
Great! Where did you go?
Lots of places, but nowhere in Europe. I wanted to travel long distance. First of all, I travelled through India and Nepal. Then I moved into Southeast Asia for a few months. Then I went through Australia and New Zealand. After that, I went to Africa and went around various countries there. After that it was South America, Central America and North America.
How on earth did you afford all that?
I just settled down and worked for a few months in places where I could get a job and save money. Then, when I had enough, I moved on. I wasn't exactly staying in luxurious places though.
And now what? You always wanted to work with computers, didn't you?
Yes, I remember that. However, when I finished all the travelling, I thought of going into travel writing, but it's so competitive. I always fancied journalism as well, so I got into that. And right now, I'm working for the local paper.
Did you have to study for that?
Well, some people don't. But I went to college for a year to do a journalism course. And I'm glad I did, as it gave me a bit of a head start, and certainly helped me get my first job.
And are you married and kids, or what?
I married a girl called Liz, that I met whilst I was in Australia. We haven't had kids yet, though we're planning on having at least 2 or 3. What about you?
Do you remember Kate, who I dated whilst at school?
Of course, the prettiest girl in the school. You didn't marry her, did you?
Yes, we managed to stay together all through college. She did teaching too, so we were at the same place for 3 years at college. We thought about getting married in our last year at college, but it was all too much, and then we were too busy the year after graduation. So we did it 2 years after we graduated.
Wow, I'm so happy that you guys stayed together. That's great.
Where are you living now?
Oh, in Westley. In the High Street, actually. What about you?
In Westley too. We've got a flat near the secondary school. Obviously then it's easier to get into work.
Before the conversation continues, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen carefully and answer questions 6 to 10.
Listen, why don't you and Kate come over for dinner sometime?
That's a great idea. When?
How about next Friday?
Can't do Friday, I'm afraid. Both Kate and I have a parent-teacher afternoon on Friday after school, and then we'll have to do the paperwork in the evening.
What about Saturday then?
That would normally be fine, but our babysitter is away that night, and we won't be able to find one at such short notice. Why don't you and Liz come over for dinner at ours, and then we'll be able to look after the kids. You'll be able to meet them too.
Okay, let's do that then. Liz will be happy. She won't have to cook.
I'll be doing the cooking when you come round. I love cooking.
So, what time shall we come round? 8 o'clock?
Well, we'll be home around 6:30 that night, as we're going out for the afternoon with the kids. I'd say come at about 7:30.
Are you sure that's long enough to get things ready?
Well, that'll be an hour. I don't need more than that.
And what's your phone number just in case?
01347 835 825. That's the home number. And the mobile is 07978 290 512. What about you?
I've only got a mobile. It's 07623 963 957.
What was that last bit again?
I'll say it all again. 07623 963 957.
And I'd better give you the address.
Oh yes, that would help.
We live at Flat 3, Evergreen Terrace. It's just past the church, on the right. We've got a postbox opposite us, and a doctor's surgery next door.
I should be able to find that.
Anything you don't like to eat?
Well, I hate fish and seafood. And Liz doesn't care much for red meat. She likes white meat, though.
How about chicken?
That should be fine.
Oh yes. When you arrive, none of the bells are marked for security, and there are 4 buttons. You need to press the bell second from the bottom.
Second from the bottom. OK, got that.
I'll be able to buzz you in, and then come up to the first floor, and the door will be open.
Great. Well, it's so good to see you again, John. I really look forward to seeing you on Saturday and meeting Kate again, and the kids, of course.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to meeting Liz.
See you Saturday then. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
That is the end of section 1. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turn to section 2. Section 2. You will hear a speaker talking about saving energy in the home. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 12. Now listen and answer questions 11 to 12.
Many thanks for inviting me along to talk about saving energy in the home. This is a key issue for many people who now find themselves on tight budgets. So today I'd like to spend a few minutes going through some simple tips to help keep those energy bills to a minimum. I'll start with some easy, cheap ideas before talking about more major solutions later. I think we're all aware of the importance of insulating our homes, and although I'd advise you to get it done, I appreciate it can sometimes be inconvenient to have building work carried out. And though they're growing in popularity, having solar panels installed on the roof isn't a cheap enough option for many of us to consider seriously. So what other steps can we take? Well, most people will make a point of turning the heating down when temperatures outside rise, but they ignore other equally useful ways of saving energy when they're making dinner or doing their weekly laundry.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 13 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 13 to 20.
If you're living in a relatively new apartment or house, you're probably blessed with a cosy, draft-free living space. But for those of us in older properties, the chances are there are gaps all over the place where cold air is getting in. Walk around your home and place the back of your hand around window frames. Can you feel cold air coming in from outside? Get down on your knees at the doors. Is there a draft at floor level? Fix these drafts with some cheap draft excluders and savings in heating bills will begin straight away. And are you using the latest energy-saving light bulbs? I'm not recommending you go around your entire property throwing out older ones and replacing them all immediately. But next time a bulb goes, make sure you buy an energy-efficient alternative. And what about heating? If you have radiators in every room, do you need them all switched on throughout the day? If they're on timers, set them efficiently. Then there's the laptop or your TV. Do you leave them switched on overnight or on standby? Don't waste money. Turn them off. And that goes for lights as well. You'd be surprised how many people leave them on when they go out. There are also guaranteed savings to be made in the kitchen. I'm always telling my husband not to overfill the kettle when he makes a cup of tea. Why boil more water than you actually need? When you consider how many times that kettle gets used every day, you'll appreciate just how much electricity can be saved by boiling what you need and no more. And the next time you're cooking pasta or potatoes, keep a lid on the pot. The water will boil much more quickly than if you leave it off. And if you've bought yourself a pressure cooker or steamer and it's sitting in the cupboard never being used, get it out. They're much more efficient than pots and pans. Now, the refrigerator and freezer. If the fridge is next to the cooker, it's having to work harder to stay cold. But as I'm giving cheap, easy solutions here, a kitchen redesign might be out of the question. Still, there are other energy-saving steps you can take. Keep an eye on the temperature control. We often forget to turn it down in the colder winter months when a high setting is unnecessary. Also, remember to defrost the freezer frequently and try not to overfill it, as this isn't the most efficient way of using it. The washing machine is another potential money saver. A lot of people wash at 40 degrees Celsius, but it's often okay to drop the temperature down to 30 degrees Celsius with similar results. And remember to either wash full loads or select the half-load programme. Again, a surprising number of people forget to do this. And is it really necessary to dry your clothes in a tumble dryer? If you have a garden or a yard, hang them outside. Or if you're drying them inside, get yourself a cheap clothes rail rather than hanging things over radiators, which robs you of valuable heat. Now, let's turn to some of the help our local council is offering to householders to save energy.
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Section 3. You will hear two students, Sam and Liz, discussing their university orientation programme. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 24. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 24.
Hi Liz, how do you feel about starting university here?
A little bit nervous, but I'm confident I can handle it. This orientation programme seems like it will help us a lot.
Sure, I'm looking at the timetable here myself. It seems that there are choices available.
I can see. So, what are you going to do Monday afternoon? In the morning we all have the opening lecture, but it looks like we have a choice later that day, as you said.
Well, the careers lecture might be helpful, but I am interested in the uni tour. It's probably too early to be thinking of careers now anyway, and I want to know what's what at this new university, so I'm doing the tour.
All right, I'll come along with you. Might learn something interesting. After all, we haven't seen much of this place yet, and we will be spending 4 years here.
Tuesday is another full day too. In the afternoon there's a lecture about study skills, but that morning offers another choice.
Library tour or student union induction? What do you think?
I think the student union is very important, but we can go there anytime, right? So we should take advantage of the library tour while it's being offered. Maybe the week after, you and I can go to the student union.
Library it is then. Now, Wednesday has a free session in the morning, but after lunch there's a choice between visiting the computer lab or attending a lecture on our legal rights.
Well, law and rights are important, but computers are the basis of everything these days, so I'm going to the computer lab.
Don't you think knowing our legal rights is equally, if not more important? We live in a very litigious and complex society now.
Sure, but it's something we can pick up later, so let's leave that one out.
Okay.
Let me see the timetable. Thursday is a free day, and the week winds up with some celebrations on Friday afternoon. It looks like a fun choice too. There's either a barbecue on the main lawn or the dance.
I never pass up the chance to eat something. What about you?
If I can get a free meal, I'll take it any day, and I'm not good at dancing anyway.
Well, that's that decided, right?
Right.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 25 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 25 to 30.
Guess what, Liz? There's another interesting thing in this orientation booklet, and it looks important, about a style guide.
What's that?
Take a look yourself. It seems to be a set of rules regarding how to present written work, essays and that sort of thing to the lecturers. They want a uniform style of presentation.
I can see, so everything we hand in must have a header and a footer.
A what?
A header and a footer. The footer is at the bottom of the page and the header is at the very top. That's why they call it a header, you know, that little bit of writing giving details about the work. And they also want the word count. Why do they need that?
I guess because the lecturers will specify the number of words they want for their assignment, and they want to be sure students follow this.
And even the heading on the page has to be a specific dimension, 16 points and bold print and underlined.
And subheadings are 14 points, and the font has to be Arial for everything.
Yes, the main text is Arial too, as you said, and the size is 12 points, with the header and footer being slightly smaller at 10 points each. Well, it seems logical. The size of everything is in proportion to its importance. But why do they need the spacing of the main text to be 1.5? The header and footer are different. They're only single-spaced.
Probably to allow the teacher to insert comments or corrections, or just to make it all more readable, I suppose.
And we need wide margins on the left, right, top and bottom, probably for the same reason. Lots of space to allow the addition of comments. That's a bit scary, actually. It seems to assume we will be making mistakes.
And look what they want in the header and footer. The header has the name of the work.
Not the name of the teacher?
No, the work, but surely the teacher's name must go somewhere. Ah, here it is. It goes in the footer.
OK, I'd say this is all logical. If a page is lost, say falls to the floor, then with all this information it can always be traced back to the teacher involved.
Right. As you say, all very logical.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Section 4. You'll hear a lecturer talking about the reintroduction of grey wolves into the wild. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
I am going to talk about one of my favourite animals today, the grey wolf. Similar to other top-level predators, like the shark, wolves sometimes have a bad reputation. It is true, they do sometimes attack herds of livestock that people depend on. In nature, however, grey wolves are a critical part of the ecosystem. Wolves are larger than the average dog. They also have a keener sense of smell since they are not a domesticated species and still live and hunt in the wild. They hunt in small packs and actually have a sophisticated social system. Scientists have observed that wolf packs are well defined by hierarchies. There is one hierarchy for male wolves and one for female wolves. At the top of each is an alpha male and an alpha female. They are not leaders of the pack according to the human definition, but they seem to have special privileges compared to the other wolves. This privilege has to do more with reproducing rather than having more food. Any pair of wolves in a pack may breed, but it is usually the alpha pair's wolf pups that are the most successful. Other pairs may not be able to raise their offspring to maturity, especially when there are limited resources. The alpha status among wolves is not permanent. Wolves are free to challenge the alpha male. These challenges are not necessarily physical fights, but are mostly ritual confrontations that involve bluffing and posturing. There is always the potential for violence though, and sometimes the jockeying for the alpha status is fatal for one of the participants. The range of the grey wolf and its subspecies used to be quite extensive, almost the entire continents of Asia and North America, and the whole of Europe as well. They are now found mostly in Canada, Alaska, the northern reaches of Eurasia, and a few other scattered pockets. In some parts of the world, grey wolves have actually been reintroduced into the wild. Many people were opposed to these programs at first because they thought it would cause economic hardship for livestock owners. In the United States, local ranchers around the Yellowstone National Park area refused to allow any wolves back. Supporters of the program knew that without cooperation from ranchers, the wolves would likely be shot and killed. Those supporters knew how important the program was and agreed to compensate ranchers for livestock lost to wolves. This important compromise paved the way for the reintroduction of wolves to Yellowstone in 1995, where they hadn't been seen for over 70 years. The reintroduction has been a great success. Studies show that the biodiversity within the park has increased and is sustaining itself. After the last grey wolves in the park were killed in 1926, the population of elk and deer soared, decreasing the number of plants available to beaver and moose. The beaver eventually became extinct there. The population of other predator species, like the coyote, exploded. This, in turn, caused rodent populations to crash. This crash led to a decline in bird species like hawks and eagles. These negative trends have all reversed since the wolves came back. As a result, Yellowstone National Park is a better, healthier place. The local economy also benefits because people are not only interested in seeing more biodiversity at the park, but also the wolves themselves. This brings in tens of millions of more dollars annually to local lodgings, restaurants and stores.
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.